Let's go.
Sunderland visited a fragile Hull City who had Colombian international forward Oscar Esutpinan back from a 3-game suspension, and their top scorer was carrying Hull City's hopes of ending a run of 7 losses in 8 games at home. Hull are bottom of the foot mob ratings of all teams in the league and the worst rated team on Who Scored. They've conceded the most goals in the division, are bottom for clean sheets and 22nd out of 24 in the league for shots inside the box. They've made the least interceptions in the league and have made the fewest passes in the final third. Given our attacking prowess, this should have been a bankable win for us. What we got was an overwhelmingly dull affair that at half-time gave way to extensive chaos for the second 45. There were some deep lessons to be learned from this game. So just what the fuck happened at Hull's MKM Stadium this weekend? Even before we kicked off, the picture was confusing. There was no Pritchard out with a strain, but Ballard, Roberts, Sirkin and Stewart made what looked to be our strongest bench for years. But the starting 11 looked like Mowbray was making do with a selection that was geared towards those substitutions, rather than starting hard and fast, which, it turned out, was the exact opposite of what we did. Whilst Clark started, it quickly became apparent that he was being played out of position in a 4-4-2 or just off Sims in a 4-4-1-1, and he was wasted there. Embleton was selected out wide on the left, but given that he tends to drift inside to the half spaces and having seen Clark double-marked out of recent games, it seems that Mowbray's idea was for Clark and Embo to interchange on the left-hand side and the centre, to confuse the Hull defence. But it was a case of square pegs and round holes and not really necessary. But most importantly, it didn't work, and both players were relatively ineffectual this afternoon. Just look at the heat map of our team here. It's clear that the interchanging did not work well on the left. We barely get anywhere. Clark was actually our most dispossessed player on the day, and he only played an hour. He's had a dip in form lately and lost his mojo, but it didn't help to set him up in this position either. Now, all of this is said with caution because we did have a man sent off, but most of our play seems to have come down the right, and statistically, Gooch and Ahmad were our weakest players in terms of creativity on the day. Striker aside, they had the lowest pass completion rates of any player on the pitch, so on both flanks we were very poor this afternoon. With Ahmad having a quiet afternoon and little ball through to Sims first half, we settled into a dull affair with almost no press from Hull, who sat deep and simply cut off the short balls up the pitch to Evans and Neal. This left us devoid of any ideas to progress.
You see Ahmad there just dropping in, trying to get on the ball, isn't he? Comes deep when he doesn't see too much of the ball at times.
Ahmad unleashed a single shot late in the first half that showed his frustration.
Ahmad. Left-footed strike. It's wide of the target.
And Sims had a single through ball that he couldn't latch onto.
Regan Slater involved there, and Sunderland might have an opportunity. Ellis Sims gets his shot away, but he gets his angles wrong.
Yeah, he does, but it's better though, isn't it? It's quick from the free kick.
And it was really plain to see just how much we depend on Pritchard for our creativity, particularly if Roberts doesn't make the starting lineup either. Pritchard was a big miss today. And then, on the 13th minute, Bath went off injured, meaning an earlier than planned introduction for the returning Dan Ballard.
Yeah, he's not moving well, is he, Danny, there at all?
It was a welcome sight, but not for the right reasons, and going forward, the game was left unchanged. As an uninventive first half gave way to the second, chaos broke out on all sides as both teams forgot how to play football. Almost immediately, disaster struck with Ballard launching a bazooka at Regan Slater.
Oh, the referee's got a decision to make here. And it was quite easy, really. It was contact from Dan Ballard.
In a second, as that ball's fed round the corner, we don't match the run. Oh, yeah.
There's no question it's a penalty.
I think Corey Evans pointing at the ball there. This angle it looked like he's probably played the ball, but I think he clatters into his shin, doesn't he? And then gets a toe on the ball. A bit sharper around the pitch than us, straight from the off. Opportunity from the penalty spot.
And so, up stepped Oscar Esutpinan, who was presented with a golden opportunity to end his 14-match barren streak.
What can Anthony Patterson do here?
Oh.
It's wide. It's a terrible penalty.
It was, yeah.
But he dragged it wide.
To go that way, and Anthony Patterson does go the right way, and he's back in the starting 11.
I actually think Pato has this covered anyway, but it's definitely a let-off. But let's go back a bit and have a look at how that play develops. Here you can see that we're set in the middle of the park, and Slater simply stands for quite a while between the lines. Gooch has a man outside him he must keep an eye on. It's Evans' responsibility here, and I think his choice is fine. He chooses, instead of dropping to cut Slater out of the play by placing himself between the ball holder and the receiver. This allows him to be available for the press and transition should it look like succeeding. Sadly, the crucial part of this choice is to actually stop the pass. And a little nonchalant Evans sees this coming and fails. It leaves us horribly exposed, and the quick ball from Slater onwards means that nobody can catch his run into the box. Slater runs half the pitch to get onto that ball, and he runs unmarked the entire way. Now, this really should galvanise us into action and focus minds that by this stage we are clearly in a game that is not going our way, and we could lose it if we don't sort things out. Enter the Dragon. I mean, I don't think it's intentional, but Embleton has form in frustrating games for losing his cool. Here's Gillingham last season. And earlier in this game, he'd had an obvious niggle that he'd gotten away with. Sure, Ryan Woods makes a ridiculous meal of it in an effort to feign a terrible injury. I hate players who try to get out of this sent-off. And in this case, it isn't even needed. I think it is a red card. You just can't go in, uncontrolled, studs up at head or chest height. And on top of that, he looks to have done himself a serious injury. Down to 10 men, we had to reshape things, and Mowbray, who has a tendency to stay positive, did so again here. Whatever you say about him, he's always trying to win games, no matter what, and today was no different. Sims, Elise and Clark came off for Stewart, Roberts and Sirkin, and we went 4-4-1, looking for either the long ball or to break with fresh legs.
And you can get your thoughts in as well. Hashtag Ask Danny. Tell us if you thought it was a red card. Use that hashtag.
Stewart led the line well, and in their third we continued to press. Mowbray had given us the best chance to win the game, given the circumstances. And it paid dividends on the 74th minute as Ballard blocked a runner and the ball came loose to Roberts, who sent a long one to Stewart for a clever finish.
He could be in here, Ross Stewart. He is in. It's Ross Stewart. He scored! Ross Stewart has scored on his return for Sunderland. And he took it so well.
Yeah, just like that. I mean, nick it. Is it Dan Ballard? I think nicks it, doesn't it? And it's a ball over the top. As we said there, on the counter-attack, can we deliver? And it's Ross Stewart off the bench, back into the action for Sunderland. Casual finish, wasn't it? Just waits for the goalkeeper to make a decision. Goalkeeper thinks he's going to try and lob him, but Ross just says, no, thank you very much. I'll just nudge it underneath you. 1-0 Sunderland.
The ball seemed to take an eternity to drop.
Yeah, have a look back now. They're asking for a foul, aren't they?
I don't think that's a foul.
Off the bench.
Referee didn't want to know.
Yes, Patrick Roberts, lovely clip over the top between the centre halves. Goalie there, yeah, see him there, just pops up. 1-2, on the third bounce, he just slots it home. Yeah, and more often than not, you do see the forward, don't you, try and lob it over, but just watch the goalkeeper now. Whoop, there he goes. Just rolls it underneath him. Ross Stewart is back for Sunderland.
We had only 16 minutes to go, and perhaps this was the time for our final two substitutions to protect the lead. But with Embleton's lengthy injury, there is probably still well over 20 minutes left to play, too long to sit back for, and we've been punished for dropping deep late in games recently. However, the perhaps inevitable equaliser came just 8 minutes later with a pressing Hull City, whose chances had been increasing with the extra man second half. As the game went on, they stretched play repeatedly from side to side, and a good cross eventually found Turkish international substitute Ozan Tufan just about free in the 6-yard box to clip home with his toe.
Woods clips one in. Oh, there's a foot there. And it's Tufan. 1-1.
Yeah, see it
Yet,
back, yeah.
this was an entirely preventable goal. Look here, all marked up, and as the ball is played in, 09 is caught ball watching, and his man loses him behind. Ballard sees this danger, and now has a choice to make. He can't mark both runners. And I think he makes the only choice he can, attack the ball and the first runner. Gooch behind him is then presented with the same situation, and to be fair to him, makes it incredibly hard for both the remaining Hull players. But Tufan gets a toe to it, and the game is level. I'm sorry, because I like Luke a lot, and his strength in the tackle and distribution is excellent for large portions of every match. But he just isn't a centre-half, and he gets caught out on some basics too often. Perhaps he's better deployed as a defensive central midfielder, or possibly even a right-back. At this point, Mowbray conceded that the game was not likely to be won and made his final substitution of the afternoon, replacing Ahmad with Barr, and going to a back five to protect the point. The game had 7 minutes of extra time, but petered out for a draw. It's easy to be frustrated by such a confusing and at times dismal performance in a game we wanted and expected to win, but perhaps we can reflect on the positives and some crucial lessons learned. Ballard and Stewart looked in good shape, and it's clear what a miss they've been. In the starting lineup with Bath, we will be much more solid and effective defensively. It's clear also that we depend heavily on the creativity of Alex Pritchard, and today proved it. Certainly, we should not be starting a game without one of either Pritchard or Pat Roberts. It only took an off day for Ahmad to show how limited we are without both of them. I think given the performances, it's time Pat Roberts was back in that team. Sure, he loses the ball a lot, but he's so positive and direct with the ball that he draws defensive attention away from others. In any case, after 2 injuries, conceding a penalty and a red card, coming away with a point is a good result. But we were the authors of our own problems today. On to Boxing Day then. I won't be covering the Blackburn or Wigan games. Man has family to see. I'll be back in the new year though, and in the meantime, have a good Christmas, stay safe, and don't do anything I wouldn't do.